as you watched me ingest an entire pharmacy of psychotropic medications. Yet the reality is that every day millions of Americans mix up an increasingly colorful, deadly cocktail of psychotropic drugs in order to alleviate their mental duress, much like a bartender mixes up a colorful drink to cure a hangover. Now, while BYU is often considered so-called sober, many of you are probably wondering how this affects you and why this really matters. Well, according to Medical Health Solutions, nearly 3.3 million Americans under the age of 19 used a psychotropic drug last year. That's our generation. While many people consider these drugs to be lifesavers, they can pull people out of the dark depths of mental despair. Over the past year, while working with a medicated autistic child, I have seen both the success and failures of these drugs. Today, we're going to discuss 2 reasons for considering greater restrictions on psychotropic drugs. These 2 reasons are: 1, psychotropic drugs are often overprescribed, and 2, psychotropic drugs can be dangerous and deadly. Moving on to the fact that psychotropic drugs are often overprescribed. According to the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, from the years 1987 to 1996, the use of psychotropic drugs among children nearly tripled. Now, it's kind of odd because we teach our children to just say no and to stay away from drugs. Yet when a child acts out, parents and teachers are often the first to reach for psychotropic medication. In fact, according to the Los Angeles Times, nearly 15 million American children are believed to have a mental illness or an addictive disorder. And yet the majority of these children are being treated by psychotropic drugs alone. That's like throwing a child into the deep end of the pool with just floaties on, instead of considering swimming lessons. This argument doesn't take into effect the fact that there are many known and well-documented alternatives to psychotropic drugs that can be found in anyone's medicine chest. They can include diet, exercise, counseling, behavioral therapy, and herbal supplements. Yet, under the current system, the majority of parents and victims don't know these alternatives. Take, for example, this story of this parent. Our story began when my son Ryan was only 5 years old. They put him on Concerta, and he became suicidal and aggressive. So trileptal was added to the mix. We switched his medication so many times that I thought I was going to lose my mind trying to keep them all straight. But what else could I do? It was like a snake trying to swallow its own tail. Moving on to our second point today is the fact that psychotropic drugs can be dangerous and deadly. Many people believe that psychotropic drugs have a few side effects in the beginning, but eventually they fade away. The reality is that studies have shown the longer you are on a psychotropic drug, the more dangerous it becomes to your health. In a study that was conducted by Medical Health Solutions, people who were on psychotropic drugs for 2 months experienced 22% of side effects. When they were on for 6 months, 66% of the participants were experiencing adverse side effects to their psychotropic drugs. Now, many people claim that the risks of psychotropic drugs, or that the benefits of psychotropic drugs far outweigh the risks. But the reality is that all the good times on the Titanic don't make up for the fact that the ship still went down in the end. Now, many people compare the use of psychotropic drugs to the use of insulin for diabetics. I have a roommate who's diabetic, so I know a lot about insulin. But the difference between a psychotropic drug and insulin is the fact that the mode of insulin is known. Insulin causes your body to produce dietary glucose, or sugar, in order to help combat that disease. But the mode of psychotropic drugs isn't known. So you're ingesting a handful of pills without actually knowing how it reacts in your body. Now, many celebrities in the psychotropic and mental health scene tout these drugs as lifesavers, such as Brooke Shields and Kelly Preston, and they say that these are the only way they could have turned their lives around. But the reality is there are plenty of other poignant examples in the media that can show the adverse effects of psychotropic drugs. In fact, psychotropic drugs have been known to cause these deadly side effects: suicide, mood swings, aggression, personality alterations, and hallucinations. I'd say that's a little more than side effects. Let's take these examples of psychotropic drugs seemingly good gone bad. Take, for example, the case of Texas housewife Andrea Yates, who systematically drowned her 5 children in the bathtub while under medication for postpartum depression. Or take the sad example of high school students Eric Harris and Dylan Cable, who entered their own high school under the watchful eyes of Paxil and Prozac and opened fire on the other students before turning the fire on themselves and ending their own lives. These examples, while gruesome and grotesque, still stand as firm testimonies in favor of harsher restrictions for psychotropic drugs. So the next time you or a loved one need something to lift them out of the depths of despair? Think twice before you reach for this.